this video, I want to give an overview of the stages in Bible translation. There are 4 main stages. The first stage is the drafting stage. It has to do with the stage where the individual translator who is given a book or part of a book to translate renders the biblical text from the source language of Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic into their own mother tongue. The software they use is the paratext. So the translator will have to draft it. The person may decide to write it first before keying in, or key in right away, because the person can still make corrections if there is the need to do so. So the translator keys in the draft, reads through verse by verse. But before drafting it, there is the need to study the background of the book that one is translating, to know the general context within which the book was written, and that informs how the translation will be done. Because translation has to do with communicating a message, and the message also depends on the atmosphere, the context within which it was first written. So the translator will do so, look at the orthography. The orthography has to do with the system or the rules regarding the writing. If the translation is a groundbreaking translation, I mean the first of its kind, and the dialect has not been documented before, then the translation cannot even begin right away. The translators will have to formulate the orthography, and that requires field work. They have to go to the people, even though they are native speakers. They have to visit people, listen to how they speak. They come and form the alphabet, then the writing system. How do we combine, say, a noun and a verb? How do we combine this part of speech and that part of speech? Do we put them together or we keep them separately? How do we spell this word? And how do we render these terms? So they form the orthography, then they begin to translate. But even before they begin to translate, another important thing is biblical terms renderings. There are key terms in the Bible, such as priest, salvation, savior, and others. They need to sit down and see how they will render all these terms in their dialect. So in that case, they have to consult people from different parts of the community so that whatever they come out with will be accepted. After the drafting, then comes harmonization, also known as team review. At this point, the team of translators, that is the 3 people, come together. They read verse by verse. There are 2 ways of doing it. Either the work is given to the other 2 people, have drafted something, so I give to the other 2 translators to read individually and then take note of the areas that they want us to revise or where they have issues, so that when we meet, they will only point out those areas and we discuss. That is one. Or you all come together, 3 of you, and you begin to read verse by verse. Whichever way it is still verse by verse, in the sense that if the other 2 are reading on their own, they will read verse by verse. And if the 3 are to come and read and harmonize, it will still be verse by verse. So the one who did the drafting verse by verse, read verse by verse. Then those who are harmonizing, that person who drafted with the other 2 translators coming together to harmonize will also do it verse by verse. At this point, they try to harmonize it. And so one may say, oh, we don't spell it this way. No, this is not how we say this. So after all those discussions, the necessary revisions are done, and then we say that the work has reached stage 2. Stage 3 is where external reviewers will come in. Here too, there are 2 ways of doing it. Either the work is sent to them to read individually and bring their comments, or they come and meet the translators and they go through verse by verse. Even if you give it to them to go through and bring their comments, there is still the need to gather them to go through. But in that case, you might have resolved a lot of the issues before they come, so that when they come, it could be done faster than if they have not read it and they are coming to read for the first time. Whatever the case is, it is still verse by verse. So when they come, there are arguments here and there. No, in my area, we don't say it this way. Is that how we spell this way? Do we combine this and this? So all those arguments will shape what has been done. One of the common comments is that this is not how we say it. You have written something. The translators have presented something, but this is not how we say it. So let's say it this way. That has to do with what we call naturalness. It is not natural. So the team of external reviewers will help in spelling, in grammar, in making it clear, in making it natural, in making it faithful to the source text. Then after that, they will go, and the work is now the work of 18 people. 15 reviewers, 3 translators, 18 people. Then the 3 translators will take the work and meet the translation consultant. When they meet the translation consultant, they go through it verse by verse. As they go through it verse by verse, the translation consultant will be checking the source language, which the translators also used. But because the translators may not have the same capacity in terms of proficiency in the source language, there are cases where they wouldn't get it right. So the translation consultant, as they are reading through, will be checking the source language and trying to see if he or she will get the same as what the translators are telling him or her. Now, you are asking, what if doesn't understand the language that they are speaking? In that case, there is always back translation. Back translation has to do with you have read it in your language, then you render it in English. You don't render it in a nice form. Just say it the way the words appear. The back translation is done literally and directly. So that direct back translation is done for the translation consultant to also check if what he or she is getting in English, in that sense, is the same as the English that these people, the team of translators, is giving to him. Then they will go through it verse by verse, and at the end of the day, the translation consultant will discuss with them if there should be changes. He doesn't impose his suggestions on them, but he discusses with them, and if they build consensus, then changes are made. At the end of the day, the translation consultant gives them some few days to continue the revision if necessary, and he appends his signature to indicate that this work is now complete and ready for publication. Yet, it will not be published at that time. After this stage, which is the 4th and the final stage, there's another stage. But that stage, from my point of view, is an appendix of this final stage, where the computer-assisted publishing officer will then meet the translators again. They go through to see that all the various checks have been done, such that the text is now free of errors and ready for publication. After that, it is sent to the publishing house and the publication is done. So, in a nutshell, these are the stages that Bible translation goes through before the final Bible is produced. I'm sure you have benefited from this video and you have developed interest in Bible translation. That is good. You have to know how the Bible you are using was produced. And so it is good that you watched this video. There are more educative videos on the channel, and I do encourage you to share the link and also download more videos. God richly bless you.